everybody. I am Head of Grants at Historic Environment Scotland, as TJ says, and the data shows that we are your best friends. We are absolutely your best friends. We fund more churches than anything else, and we spend 31.76 million per year on the historic environment in Scotland, and only in Scotland, nowhere else. All of that money goes to our historic environment here in Scotland, and mostly to churches. So enjoy that. So what I'm going to do is speak very briefly because I know we're already a little bit behind schedule, so I'll try and be a little bit quicker than normal. I'm going to talk to you about our strategic level support, our capital support, and then I'm going to give you some case studies just to get the sort of ideas flowing about the different kind of range of things that we can support. But really, I would say to you, our doors are very much open. So, strategic level support, first and foremost, we fund Development Trust Association Scotland for a programme that's about to begin on looking at kind of ways to develop the community ownership side of churches and looking at churches that are at risk of closure in particular. So if that is something that you're interested in pursuing or want to talk to somebody about, Linda Gillespie in DTAS will very soon be able to talk to you about it, and there will be an announcement about when that's made available. We also fund Victoria in Historic Church of Scotland, who you heard from earlier, who has a number of churches in her possession, in her back pocket. Victoria is an amazing source of information about the really nitty-gritty maintenance ownership issues around churches, and I would strongly advise you to have a conversation with her about church ownership because there's very little that she hasn't experienced herself. And finally, we fund SPAB as well. So that's the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings, I think. And what we funded them to do this year is a pilot project where they used a church as a kind of a test bed for teaching local congregations about how to do maintenance to their building using traditional methods. So that's the kind of strategic stuff that we do alongside of all of the other stuff that Historic Environment Scotland does that Greg was referencing earlier. We are a many hydrid beast. And if you look behind me, you'll see there's like 4 different stands of us. Come and talk to any of us. Right, so how do we fund churches directly? Well, we have 3 levels of grants. We have Express, Small and Large. Express, you can come to me anytime. We decide those very quickly, and those ones can be for anything you like. So that can be about interpretation projects. It can be an urgent repair work if it's a very small piece of work. It can be for a maintenance plan. Anything you like can come through that. Those turn around all the time. There's no deadline for those. Smalls are up to £100,000, and again, those are tend to be more stuff around interim works or emergency works. So that's where, say, for example, you're thinking, we're not really sure what we're going to do with our church long term, but we know there's a really big hole in the narthex and we've got to get that hole fixed. Come to us and we can help you get that hole fixed while you're still thinking about the rest of your plans, so that buildings don't degenerate before your plans are fully formed. Now, we will expect you to have some idea of what you're doing, but we don't need to see the grand picture at that point. We just really want to help you conserve the historic fabric. Skills and training, if you're looking at your building, and I would strongly advise you consider this as a training project for traditional skills, come to us. Delighted to support those kinds of things. So things that we can fund are repointing, reharling, stained glass work, lead work, timber work. All of those kinds of traditional skills training programs are hugely beneficial because not only does it build capacity locally in terms of traditional skills, but it gets your building repaired. And interpretation. Some of you have really fantastically interesting buildings, and I know just being Paisley Abbey, which has got this really, really rich history, but a lot of you will have centuries of kind of history of your building that perhaps hasn't been interpreted recently or could use an update. You can come to us and we'll help support that. We also do large grants of up to £500,000. Those 5 minutes sign. And the £500,000 are kind of the bigger level schemes of work. So that's kind of your roofs, your windows, potentially internal works as well. Well, not really internal works, we mostly do external works, stonework repairs, that kind of stuff. And those are on cycles. You can check out when our next deadline for that is on our website. So what we need you to do is to have an application that relates to the historic environment, tangible or intangible, but I reckon you guys are very firmly in the tangible side of the column. It must relate to the HES grant priorities. There are 6 there. You don't have to meet all 6. You can meet three really well and we'll be delighted. Don't try and meet all six. You're not Houdini. It's impossible. We would prefer that you just are honest about what you can and can't do. And if you meet three really strongly, great. That's ideal. If you kind of meet six a little bit, less good, because it shows that you're kind of trying to push a narrative that isn't actually true. We are a really experienced team. We have dealt with a lot of churches. We will read between the lines. Be honest with us. You have to have a financial need, pretty easy, usually speaking, for churches, and offer good value for money. So we can fund up to 40% of your grant eligible costs, and we do a process whereby we assess what's grant eligible in your application. It can't have started. Don't start the works before you get the money, but I don't think anybody here would do that. And it can't be funded by a city heritage trust because they're also part of our funding scheme. So if you're in a city, one of Scotland City, apart from Dunfermline, because that hasn't started yet, go to the City Heritage Trust first, and we'll see if we can help, we can support you through that. So to get our funding, first of all, you need to submit an expression of interest. They're available on our website. Shouldn't take you more than 40 minutes tops to fill it out. That's just very broad brush, and we won't hold you to the detail in that. It's more to get you into the system and get that conversation started. It allows us to give you expert advice and help tailor your project in a way that we know is more likely to succeed than otherwise. So by all means, come to us at that stage. We don't like to have conversations before you've got an expression of interest submitted to us, because for us, it's a really interesting data point, what you come into us with first versus where you end up. And we like to have that little plot of knowledge to start off with before we have that conversation. Honestly, it won't take you long at all. It's very quick. Just tell us about your time frames, what you're going to do, your estimated costs, and any other match funding. You don't have to have that in place. It's just roughly who you're going to apply to as well. And well in advance of an application deadline, particularly if you're looking for a larger grant, because sometimes it takes a bit longer to get through. If you're just doing an express grant, whenever you like, fire it away. So here's some nice examples of projects that we funded before. This is the Y Centre in Tayside, where we just gave a relatively small amount of money, but actually several different pots over a number of years to convert the church. And I will point out that it's only C-listed. It's C-listed, which means that it's not a hugely significant building, but to us, there was enough of a project there, and that's about the grants priorities. It hits them well enough for us to go, yes, this is something we should definitely be funding. That project is really, really interesting. They're converting that to emergency accommodation, to community meeting spaces, and to well-being as well. The former Grand Church in Kilmarnock, which Gordon showed earlier as well, which is one of our ones, which is now a climbing centre. It's a lot of climbing centre interest, so by all means pursue those. Bishopton Parish Church, this is a personal favourite. This has had two phases, and it doesn't seem like a massive project to you, but it went on over a number of years, and it was really successful because the church body was so interested in making sure it was a success. The representative from the church was so good at managing the contractor, so good at talking to us when costs were overrunning. We had a really, really good relationship. And it didn't have a wham bam amazing impact in terms of that things were radically different when they finished the project. But the building was beautifully conserved and is now in a great state, which is far more than it was before. And we were delighted to fund that one. And then this one is a really exciting one, which is just hitting site now. Kilcavan, Killeen and Kilkenzie churches, which is where three churches that are ruined have kind of combined their applications to us to come in as sort of one contractual phase of works, so that because they're in such a remote area, they can get a contractor in to do all three churches in a winner. Hugely beneficial for us in terms of efficiencies in cost and also time, actually getting a contractor to cost for it, because obviously there are economies of scale, right? But if you're doing three churches, it makes far more sense for a contractor to actually fund for that work than if you're just doing one. So think about churches in neighbouring areas where potentially you could work together on a combined scheme, and come to us and have a chat about that, and we will do our best to help you. And I think this is the Free North Church in Aberdeen. And this is a fairly traditional one for us, just a whole range of different skills that we, work that we support. And it just started this week. That's it. Any questions? I'll be over there. My colleague Jen is somewhere in the audience as well. And if you have any burning queries that you don't get to speak to me about today, grants@hes.scot. Thank you very much.